Okay. We are seeing the trading stage. Yep. This trading stage seems to be pretty long. We have to walk on thin ice. Now I call it this thing here is about we are almost coming to the GG energy for 2022 lah. All right. So GG completion 卦. If you can recall in AOM 2, when we talk about GG 卦, we talk about the crucial last lap. Okay, the crucial last lap. So we are almost like towards the crucial last lap, but yet Murphy law always step in. So Mary pray that the variant Lambda from Peru does not come in. Oh, is there a new variant called from Peru called Lambda? I didn't catch that. Oh, I see. So now there's a new variant. Oh my God. Good afternoon, Andrew. Good afternoon, Stacy. Right, it's 2 p.m. now. Okay, Mary say yes. WHO announced this is most dangerous. Oh, more dangerous than Delta. Wow. Okay lah. I hope the most dangerous one comes out lah. Okay, I hope the most dangerous one comes out, and not more dangerous than the previous one. I want the max most dangerous one to come out ASAP lah. Okay, so now it's 2 p.m. Let's get it started. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Ultimate Eating Persuasion, Lesson 3, and today is also the last lesson for the entire program. And before we move on, because you have asked for it, I checked my schedule for next year. This year, my schedule is all fully taken up already. So what is left is next year. The earliest that I can slot in what you have requested, this 9 yin yang laws of persuasion will be 15 May 2022 is a Saturday, 2 to 5 p.m. So now, because this is still hot from the oven, so it won't be on my website yet. I just created this artwork this morning only. So now it's pre-launch for those who say you are in it. So it's a pre-launch price, $29. All right. So what you need to do is that you can scan the QR code. Remember, this QR code is the Pay Now QR code. That means you need to go into your GPay, Google Pay, or your bank apps to scan this. If you use normal camera to scan, it will show you error. So use your bank apps or GPay or PayLah, I think. Go and scan this, and then you can pay the fee. And then you let me know, you WhatsApp me, and I will register for you manually. All right. So without further ado, anyone have any quick questions regarding the earlier 2 lessons? Or anyone had any good experience to share? Tested out these few techniques, try out these techniques, and then find that, actually it's not too bad. You can see positive result from it. Anyone? Any good sharing to share? Helen say, what will we learn for yin yang laws of persuasion course? Okay, good question. Now, what you have learned so far in this UYP, Ultimate Eating Persuasion, are all the techniques. Okay, techniques are nothing if there's no backdrop. Backdrop means there must be like I always say about eating is that, changes take place against the backdrop of unchanging principles. So what you are learning in this program are all the techniques. Techniques, that mean the execution part. But all this execution must take place effectively only when that is in executed against a backdrop of unchanging principle. And the unchanging principles, they are plentiful. Okay, they are plentiful. And what I will talk about in this 3-hour workshop are 9 of these most common and most powerful laws of persuasion that I've seen so far, that it works 99% of the time. Okay, so that means once you have learned this UYP for this today, these lessons, and then next time when you execute, you look back at this 9 yin yang laws of position, you have a good combination. That means whatever you're executing, you're always executing against a backdrop of the unchanging laws, which is the 9 yin yang laws of position. But there are more than 9 laws. But I keep on using these 9 laws because it has been working for me very, very, very well. Okay, so is that okay with you, Helen? Mary say, hi, I just spoke to my son on Zoom, saw his eyes movement, very good. Okay, good, good. Keep using because all these are very simple tools, right? Very, very simple tools that we can use, but nobody know that we are using unless they are also black belt, right? Like say, for example, micro movement, our eyes, our body language, all these things, sometimes we cannot control because it comes from our inner world. And because of that, that forms the unobservable portion, which we should be leveraging on when we want to communicate with the other party. Okay, so let me go to my slides. I will skip the first few slides because they are the usual ones. All right, so we have completed so far lesson 1, module 1, 2, and 3, and then lesson 2, module 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so today we're going to complete the remaining 3 modules, which is module 7, pattern interrupt. Pattern interrupt basically means everyone has a pattern and everyone has more than one pattern. So whether it's yourself or it's for the other party, when a pattern is not serving you well, you may want to interrupt that pattern. Means break that momentum if we can. Okay, that's module 7. We'll talk about that. Module 8 is if you can find someone that is so suggestible, your job is very easy. All right, but how to know whether that someone is suggestible or are you suggestible yourself? Sometimes when you go and listen to sales talk, listen to a sales lady telling you about certain products, or go for a preview talking about some courses, how suggestible are you that, by the end of that preview, highly likely you will run behind to the hall to sign up and pay money. How suggestible are you? We'll talk about that in module 8. And module 9, the last lesson for today, is we can talk about everything in, under the sun, but what is most important is your inner world. We already know that our inner world is going to govern how we behave 90% of the unobservable part, I mean the subconscious part. And so therefore, we should also pay attention to back to our inner world. That's why I put the last module there, module 9, as a module that will talk about how to persuade your own self, okay? Influence yourself for success. All right, so let me see. Let me see. Just type into the chat box. A quick one, okay? Which technique can you still remember from the last 2 lessons? Just type in the chat box. Anything that comes to your mind. Okay, Mary say eyes and mirror. Thank you. Helen say eyes movement. Thank you. Yiling say eye assessing. Very good. Or mostly all talk about eyes. So looks like the eye assessing cue seems to be pretty popular. Okay, very good, very good. That's all. Y'all can only remember eyes assessing cue. That's all. Mirror also. Okay, mirror. Any more? Stalking. Helen, very good. Oh, you're back, Helen. Okay, very good. Okay, stalking, very good. Mary says subtle commands need some time to practice. Yes, subtle command, you really need some time to practice. For myself, because my command of English is not very good, especially writing also. So therefore, when I want to insert subtle commands in, I feel the challenge. Okay, I feel the challenge. Stacy said three-word command, very good. So, but I take up the challenge because it's also a way for me to brush up my English also. At the same time, try out this three-word command. Okay, very good. Thank you. Now let's move on. Are you ready to get started? Type yes or type ready. Oh, Helen, very good. Reverse negative. Thank you very much. Ready, okay, good. Healing all ready, okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to module 7, pattern interrupt. Did I skip one? Okay, pattern interrupt. This module or this technique that you're about to learn can be used to break your own patterns, for your own, or you can also be use it to break other people's pattern. For example, the one that you want to persuade. And I find this technique pretty useful, but you cannot use it too often because it becomes very obvious. And yeah, I'll talk about this, and then you see for yourself lah, or you see for yourself how useful is it to you. Because like I say, for me, my personal favorite is the subtle command, right? So it could be a different module for you as your favorite. So I leave it to you, but I'll share with you all these techniques. So let me ask you this: who has a bedtime routine? Type yes. Type me in the chat box. Who has a bedtime routine? Or you don't know what is a bedtime routine? A bedtime routine means there is something that you must always do before you go to bed. Anyone? Mary say me, reading to put me to sleep. Okay, so Mary has a bedtime routine. Very good. So for her, oops. For her it is reading, and for Elaine is slide. Okay, slide HP, swa handphone. Okay, very good. Okay, so yeah. Helen say eyes auto close. Okay, wow, this is very good. Eyes auto close. Bedtime, very good. So I put it this way: there's always, I believe, 99% of people has bedtime routine in some ways or another. You may not notice it. You may feel that it's random, but if you monitor yourself, for example, you write down what you do tonight, tomorrow night, and then the next later, you find that there's some kind of observable routine. So, yeah, if you start looking at it more closely, some activities may keep repeating across the days. So Stacy also has bedtime routine. Okay, very good. So for example, Mary say reading, Elaine says slide handphone, Stacy also she has. So for example, some brush the teeth, must brush the teeth, or must floss the teeth, or must wash the face. There are many other more. So I don't know what is yours. So if if you want to find out whether you have a bedtime routine, yeah, you can do your own check lah. Monitor yourself. So basically, what it means here is that all humans have patterns, and a lot of time is more than one pattern that they will always follow, consciously or subconsciously. Now, when a person is doing something, he expects this human behavior. When a person is doing something, he expects a coherent flow of a logical chain of thoughts, words, and idea. For example, right now, when I'm teaching this, when I'm talking right now, all right, my mind is already going few steps ahead. Like say I sucks at multitasking, but no choice since I'm doing teaching. I have to multitask a bit. That means while I'm talking in the present, my mind has run into the future, and go a few steps ahead and say that, okay, what's coming next, and how do I join them up so there is a good flow, of teaching and things like that. So whatever we do, we always expect a coherent flow. It's a chain of thought, words, and ideas. All right. So a pattern, I call this a pattern. When there is when you're doing something repeatedly, then that one is called a pattern. And a pattern is any sort of process that leads to a certain outcome. And because of this, either way, because of this, most people strive to operate within the comfort zone. Who don't have a comfort zone? Who don't need a comfort zone? Or who is always striving to be in a comfort zone? That means operating in a comfort zone. You know what's comfort zone, right? Comfort zone means you're going back into your same zone, a very comfortable zone. Keep doing the same thing over and over again. Don't want to step out of the comfort zone because you are worried about the uncertainty once you step out of that zone. All right. So that's why people always operate within their comfort zone, and so that they can repeat the patterns over and over again. So let's take an example. Let me ask you this, for example, if you get a call from an unknown number, okay, unknown number, right? What do you do? Type in the chat box. What do you do if you get a call from an unknown caller? And why do you do what you do? So Helen said, comfort zone is a dangerous place to stay too long. Yes, Helen, very good statement here, because comfort zone, if you stay too long there, you get into stagnancy. Okay, stagnancy, and then you complain, and then no growth, right? No growth. People having opportunities here and there, but yet you don't have growth. You feel stagnant. That's because you choose to stay back into the comfort zone, not daring to step up. Very good point. Huh? Okay, Mary say regarding the phone. Okay, now we're fishing. I'll end it. I'll end it. Okay. Ellen say ignore most of the time. Okay, Chris say cancel the call as there are too many scam calls. Right. So now this is called a pattern. You have formed your own pattern with respond to receiving a call from an unknown number. This is a pattern that you have established for yourself. Stacy also said ignore. Me too. Not only unknown number, I will ignore. Any number that comes with +65, right? +65, I will also ignore. Yeah. Okay, cancel and block. Wow, Elaine went one step further. Cancel and block. Okay, good. So this is one pattern. I'm just raising this as an example because I think this is common throughout almost to everybody nowadays. So this is a pattern designed to avoid scam calls or uncomfortable conversation. Okay, uncomfortable conversation. So you establish a pattern to deal with that situation. All right, talking about forming a pattern, a pattern, it needs to form over time. Okay, not only suddenly can form a pattern, but you have to form over time. Helen said, I just received a +65 call, which I found out was from Lazada delivery. Well, luckily you answer, otherwise you miss out that. Okay, now talking about forming a pattern, it takes time. The very first few times, you may be putting a lot of thoughts and deliberation into that action. For example, the very first time, who can recall the very first time you received an unknown call and you decide to ignore it? That first few time, you may be putting yourself in a lot of thoughts and then a lot of deliberation. Should I answer? Should I not answer? Helen, how about you? When you decided to answer this +65 call, do you answer readily? Oh, you didn't answer. Oh, you didn't answer the Lazada delivery. Then how do you know it's Lazada delivery, Helen? Okay, so remember this. Forming a pattern. The first few times you tend to feel very uncomfortable, right? But after a while, once this habit kicks in, that means you do often enough, it becomes a habit. And after a while, this habit becomes a pattern. And then you just ignore unknown numbers automatically. So this is called patterns. Mary said, yes, first few cancel call doesn't feel good. Now second nature liao. Okay, so you have already cast in stone that pattern already for Mary. So remember this, if for yourself, if you find that you have unhealthy patterns, it's always easier to break it off from the start. Like 坤卦, right? We always say 驴双剑兵制. 驴双剑兵制 means nip it at the butt. Same thing for unhealthy patterns. So same thing, if let's say your kids, if you observe and find that there's some unhealthy pattern forming from your kids on your kids, you may want to help him or her break the pattern ASAP. Yeah, ASAP. Okay, Helen say receive SMS that they won't leave the cold items, will refund me. I see. So they SMS you. Okay, right. All right. So this is called patterns. Now let's move on. And a lot of time, these patterns are unobservable. So everyone has unobservable patterns. Some are helpful, some are not. So for example, ignoring unknown calls. I'm not sure whether it's helpful or not helpful patterns, but at least it makes you feel, after a while, it makes you feel, okay, it must be scam call, it must be phishing call, things like that. But what if a friend or family members in distress calls you from an unknown number. Then the moment you see an unknown number, you ignore it. Oh my God, then your friend or family member in distress will be left in the lurch. Yeah. So sometimes, a pattern can cause us some troubles as well. So just be mindful of a pattern that may not be serving you well. But I'm not saying ignore calls are unhealthy patterns. Um, it's for you to decide. It's for you to decide. So there are other such unobservable patterns. I'll give you some examples. If you can think of any other examples, feel free to type in the chat box. For example, a certain word. Okay, a certain word, because for example, some people like to say a certain word consciously or unconsciously. Yeah. For example, for me, I know myself. I always like to say okay, things like that. So this is unconsciously. I keep on saying okay, 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 right? Or all right is also another certain words that I always use when during conversation. After a while, when I look back at my video, then I realize, yeah, why am I always talking about saying okay or saying all right and things like that? Become a Chinese called 口头禅, a certain word that you always talk about. And sometimes these certain words can hurt people that we don't know. Right? So the next one is certain gesture. Certain gesture can be, for example, the eye movement. Certain gesture like 翻白眼 could be one of the, like go blank eyes, 翻白眼 could be one gesture that you always do, and then that could have offended people. And that's why people, usually would not agree with what you say, things like that. So this, you may not know that you're doing it, but you're actually doing it. Or certain behavior, okay? Certain behavior like every time, when people suggest something, you always shoot it down, or be negative and shoot it down. So this is kind of certain behavior. Or certain habits. Habits like, for example, I don't know, kids, sometimes kids are like this. When they come back home, they change to their home clothing, then they will leave their, the clothes that they wore back just lying on the floor. It become a habit. Okay, it become a habit. So this could be certain patterns that they have or they exhibited. Or any other unconscious reaction. Unconscious reaction is, it means that something happened, you reactedly with a pattern, just like the plus 65 calls, a call came in, that is a situation that came in, and your reaction to it, you use a pattern to respond to it. So your response is ignoring the call. Okay, so something is like that, a certain unconscious reaction. Now, when I say unconscious reaction, it must come from a conscious state first. After a while, it becomes unconscious reaction, right? So Mary says shake leg is also one example of unobservable patterns. Yes, yeah. Last time me was like that. I like to shake leg, cross my leg, shake leg, things like that. So after a while, I cut away the habit lah. Oh, okay, yeah, very good. Thank you, Mary. Now I'm pointing this out is to tell you, okay, to share with you or highlight to you that when during a conversation, we may also want to see patterns. Okay, see patterns. And for example, let me cite you this example. Okay, John, not his real name, and his wife can't seem to have a good conversation, and would always end up in a heated argument. So this is a collective pattern. A collective pattern means if you put these two warm body together, very naturally, they will end up in a heated argument. So I call this as a collective pattern. Okay, if let's say John is with another friend, no argument. Even the wife with another friend, no argument. But we put John and his wife together, sure argument. So this is called collective pattern. Now, after further analysis, it was found that John was fond of bringing up old stuff. This is his pattern. I mean, when they're talking about certain thing, discussing about certain thing, or talking about a point, a position, for whatever reason, somehow John would like to dig up old things and then bring up, 10 years ago things, and 5 years ago thing, and then when the moment he did that, he brought up old stuff. The wife went into reactive pattern. Okay, reactive pattern. So whenever this pattern shows up, his wife would flare up and the conversation would end up in a heated argument and sometimes ended up in a fight. So this is his wife reflexive pattern or reactive pattern. All right, so during conversation, do take note that whether it is the other party's pattern or your own pattern, you have to take note because certain pattern may interrupt or makes your persuasion not successful. So if you have patterns of which you were previously unaware or of which you were aware but did not change them, now is the time to change them. Right? I'm telling you all this about patterns already, so you are aware of these patterns. Not that you're not aware. So now you're aware already. So do go and find out what are your patterns that are not serving you. Or if you're trying to persuade someone and notice that someone has a certain pattern, find ways to break it. Okay. So you're going to use pattern interrupt to help you with this, interrupt that pattern. So if you are having a hard time persuading people, that means that the pattern you are using to persuade that someone is not helpful at all. Mary said nowadays people keep looking over and checking the phone. That's right. This become a social social pattern. 低头族啊. Okay, 低头族, the head always look down one. Right? So this become a social pattern. And yep, this is one pattern that so sometimes we have to find a way to interrupt. Like for example, I think I've said this in some lessons before, kids nowadays, they like to stay in their own room and then they just play with their handphone or desktop or laptop, play games. Don't want to come out, stay whole day until come out only when go toilet or having meal time, So one way to interrupt that kind of pattern is to, suddenly turn off the Wi-Fi, everybody will come out. So that is how effective pattern interrupt can be sometimes. Yep, Stacy, correct. Look down society. 低头族. Okay, let's talk about this, how to interrupt pattern. So if you have hard time persuading other people, it means that the pattern you're using is not serving you well. So if you keep executing the same pattern, if you keep trying to persuade using the same thing, the same pattern, the same wordings, the same whatever, you will be keep on getting what you are getting, right? So you have to change. You don't expect to do the same thing to get different result. No, you give you the same thing. All right. So you have to interrupt that pattern and then move on to a new pattern to try out. Recently, one of my friend talked to me. We had a chat and he said that, hey, she was trying to find a job, sent so many resumes, a lot of resumes, and none came back. So I just told her, you keep sending the same resume, you keep getting the same thing lah. So I suggested to her, why don't you change your pattern a little bit? So she asked me what kind of pattern to change. I say, hey, look at your resume lah. Maybe change the format, or change the content, or whatever, just change a little bit. Don't care what you change, just change a little bit. So she changed a little bit and she sent out again. Okay. And within 1 week, their calls asking for interview already. So you see, then she told me, hey, what good news. I got interview already. That's because I sent out a different resume. Things like that. If you keep sending the old resume, and if it's not going to convince people to call you, then it's not going to convince people to call you. So why don't we just change the pattern a little bit? So I'm just citing one simple example like this. It can be applied to many other situations. If you keep getting the same result, change the pattern. It's just telling you that pattern is not serving you. So a pattern interrupt is actually basically what it means is interrupting a pattern. Okay, Helen, you are also, do you mean you are one of the 低头族? Okay, now let me do a quick poll. How many of you, when you sleep, your handphone is beside you? Okay, Helen, the resume case study. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. So it applies to everything. Pattern interrupt applies to everything, not only conversation and persuasion. It applies to everything. in life, including getting what you want in life. For example, pursuing personal growth and things like that, or having, wanting to promote and things like that, or having a good performance appraisal, all these things. If you keep doing the same old thing, you keep getting the same old thing, right? So pattern interrupts do not have to be dramatic, do not have to be a 360 degrees change, no need. Okay, like for example, the resume thing, I just ask my friend to just have a second look at it, just change here, change there a little bit, maybe the format or the wording used or the tone being used, try send it out again. Right? So pattern interrupt do not have to be dramatic. A simple change is enough to interrupt the pattern and move you in a new direction. Right? Helen is asking, what did your friend change? Any idea? I don't know. I asked her to change, she changed. So I don't know what she changed. I guess it's the format. I'm not sure. Okay, so for you, if let's say you're trying to persuade someone, because today we're talking about persuasion, so I just confine the topic to persuasion. If you are trying to persuade someone and you keep getting the no as an answer, then it's time to tell you that the pattern you're using is not serving you. So you need to interrupt your own pattern. So in this case, it's you interrupting your own pattern. And one of the good way is to apply the techniques that you have already learned in this UYP, Ultimate Eating Persuasion. And that's now some of you has already shared what you can remember. Okay. What do you call that? Mirroring lah, perspective lah, eye assessing cue lah. All these are techniques that you can use to interrupt the pattern. Now, Helen, you say you change also same result, That means change some other patterns. You change some other patterns. So for example, I'm not sure, because nowadays, for many years, I never send resume already. So I also lost touch on applying for jobs. But whatever you're doing, you look through your flow, your workflow and things that you do. Okay, you have tried resume. It could be that the change that you do for resume is not good enough. You may want to change again, or whatever. Maybe you have been applying to Job Street, for example, and you get the same result, no nothing. Then you may want to move on to another platform, for example, maybe government agency. I'm not sure. Okay, so whatever you're doing, you may want to tweak one of the variable. Right? There are many variables. You may want to tweak one of the variable one by one, small change. Is that okay, Helen? All right. So to interrupt a pattern for yourself, you can consider either of the techniques that you've already learned in UYP. Helen said maybe you can ask someone to help you see how you can improve your resume. Oh, okay, good idea, Helen. Yeah. Okay, so you may want to get someone to look through. I remember one of my other friend who also has resume problem, if I'm not wrong. I think she engaged someone to proofread and then to change. She pay someone to do that. I'm not sure whether there's such a service out there, but this is what she's told me also. Or she paid someone to look through a resume to change a resume. Okay, so what have you learned so far that you can use? That's a recap here. Perspective system. Right? Perspective system means whether the person is the person is visual or auditory or kinesthetic, and then you're using a different system to talk to their system. So you may want to tweak a 1 degree shift change to match their system. That's number one. Or number two, you can use mirroring their posture, okay, or their behavior. You can do that. A very small change, no need dramatic change. Or you can use subtle command. Instead of using any random words, you may want to carefully plant in your commands into your conversation or into your email or into your text message and then send it out. Right? So nothing dramatic change. Or eye assessing cue. That means instead of not looking anywhere, don't know where to look, you may want to look at the other person's eyes. That is one of the pattern that you can interrupt for yourself. Mary said, try to prevent people working or with HR experience. Good suggestion, Mary. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe someone in the HR will know what is the latest trend in resume format, Is it 1 page or 2 page kind of resume? Back in my time, the more the merrier, the more pages, the merrier. But I think now what I last heard was that, not more than 2 pages. If I'm not wrong, not more than 2 pages, and has to be, what size font one. I can't remember already. Okay, so let's move on. So to break your own pattern, you can try out in terms of persuasion, because today we are confining to persuasion. You can try all those techniques that you have learned earlier on, and then there's some other techniques that I'm going to share with you. Okay, so let's talk about interrupting other people's pattern. Okay, talk about interrupting other people's pattern. As this is a slightly different version of the same concept, lah. So it's very useful. I use it pretty often, and I find that 99% of the time it works for me, lah. And this approach of pattern interrupting, I'm going to show you shortly, actually go under the radar. Go under the radar, and then you drop a bomb. The effect is something like this. I mean, go under the radar. That means the other party won't know what you're doing. They can't really detect, but you're actually doing it. So you go under the radar, and then once you reach that zone, bomb zone, you drop the bomb. So I'm going to show you how to do it. Helen say, self yourself, good to be concise and to the point. Tweak according to the job you are applying one same resume can be used for all jobs. Good point, Helen. Thank you for sharing this good point. Right, okay, good. So for those who are looking for job and planning to hash up your resume, yeah, this is one good point. Okay, good. Now next, interrupt others. This technique, I call it, if you tie it back to one of the 36 stratagem, I call this the 声东击西. 声东击西 means you make noise at the east, but actually you're targeting at the west. So it's called 声东击西. So for those attended the AOM3, yeah, this is one of the technique. This is one of the stratagem that you can use to do pattern interrupt. And it involves 2 steps. Okay, it involves 2 steps. Step number 1 is you interrupt, and step number 2, you indirect. So interrupt means 声东啦, redirect means 击西啦. Okay, so basically this is what it means. And this is the most effective so far for those who really having hard time saying no, or having hard time to step forward and excuse themselves. This pattern interrupt is very effective and very useful and very easy to use also. Okay, extremely effective for anyone who want to do 走为上. I mean, to run away from that situation now. So this is one way. I'll show you with more examples. For example, this scenario, let's say you bump into a salesman, and then the salesman, pitching non-stop, and you are the goody guys, who really paise to say no. I don't want to listen to you. So you patronize that salesman a bit, listen a bit, and then find the first opportunity to run away. So the salesman, blah 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 blah, then talk on. The sales pitch non-stop. So you try to talk, say, oh, okay. Initial part you try to patronize, say, oh, okay, the product looks good, or things like that, and then the salesman keep on selling, sell the goyong, and then you try to whatever, and say but, things like that. So the salesman don't get your hint and say blah 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 blah, can I blah 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 blah, until you cannot tahan, you cannot take it already. This is one of the best point to do pattern interrupt. Okay, usually what do? What would you do in this kind of situation? You are the Mr. Good Guy or Mr. Good Lady. You don't know how to say no. You don't know how to excuse yourself. You feel very paise to excuse yourself. What would you usually do in such a situation? Okay, Helen say, excuse yourself, go to toilet. Okay, very good. Sometimes even you want to excuse yourself, you so don't know when to step in to excuse yourself. So Helen say, okay, sorry, I got an appointment, need to run off. Okay, good. Now, excuse yourself, go to the toilet, and then sorry, got an appointment, need to run yourself, to run off. Okay, all this, Mary says, so far I don't engage from the start. Okay, very good. very good. So don't engage from the start, you are safe already. But for the excuse of self go to toilet or say got an appointment, need to run off, what you can do, okay, what you can do if let's say you don't know, you feel very paiseh to bring up, say, sorry, I need to go to the toilet. You can do this two-step thing. You can do this two-step thing. I repeat the scenario again. The salesman go on blah 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 blah. You say okay, but can I? Until you cannot take it already, you insert this one, a very unusual comment. Okay, a very unusual comment. So like for example, hey, is there a UFO? All right. That's the purpose why we need to insert a very unusual, absurd comment. So that is to sentong. Okay, sentong means you read, interrupt the pattern in a very abrupt manner. Okay, interrupt with an unusual comment. So it could be, for example, hey, is that a UFO? Hey, do you know my cat gave birth yesterday? Something like that, a very unusual comment. I tried this many times. It works fine. Or you can drop something. For example, you can drop a spoon. You can drop your pen. If let's say you're on a table, meeting room, or discussion table, you can drop a pen, drop your phone. I don't think you drop a phone. Maybe a pen, or any other thing else. You drop something so they interrupt the whole thing, break the momentum. That is step number one. Helen said redirect the attention. Okay, redirect the attention. Yes, very good. Redirect the attention. And then Stacy said my husband won't allow. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, good one. Blame the man. Okay, good. After that, you redirect. That means you change topic. If let's say your intention is to run away from the salesman, then you say you need to go to the toilet, or you have an appointment to rush to, then that part will come in the redirect. I mean the step 2 part here. Okay, redirect them. So in this way, you won't look no manners, or not polite enough to the other party. Okay, if you do this two-step thing, it won't look impolite. Okay, so Helen said the salesman will say, tell your hubby, come together. Sometimes the salesman, if they are black belt enough, they know what to say to counter. Okay, to counter. I mean, they are actually handling the objection. All right, so salesmen are very good at all this. Okay, so like I said, this one, better interrupt. If you interrupt others, is a two-step thing. One is to introduce an unusual comment, and then after that, redirect. The time lapse between the step 1 and the step 2 cannot be too far away. It has to be almost immediately. Okay, almost immediately. Now, why this works? I've tested it, and I've asked myself many times, how come this works so wonderfully? Because when I test it out, it works 99% of the time. And I've been asking myself, why this works. And then when I look at the yin yang, from the yin yang perspective, and from this Sentong GC thing, then it ring the bell. I'm going to share with you why this one works so wonderfully. Don't believe what a thing I say. I want you to try it out tonight or anytime, tomorrow, when you have a chance to talk to somebody and you try it out. Change the topic until they don't know, why you change the topic, and they'll just follow along. Okay, so this change the topic could be running away. If let's say you need to run away, you just change the topic. Say I need to go to the toilet, or no, my husband is waiting for me outside, so I need to rush off now. Things like that. Or if let's say this salesman or the other party deviated from the main topic during a meeting, for example, deviated, and you want to bring him back, you may want to introduce an unusual comment, then redirect and bring him to the new topic. Okay, bring him to a new topic. All right, so let's us discuss, after the interrupting already, then you say, okay, let's us discuss the next agenda, something like this. Helen say, is it because the train of thought is broken? Exactly. Helen, very good point. Very good point. You have the point. Because the train of thoughts is broken. Like I say, everyone works in the comfort zone. Everyone expects a coherent flow of a logical chain of thoughts. And once that's broken, this is what I'm trying to bring you to. Give me one more, what I call that? Next slide, I will explain more in depth. So remember, this one works wonderfully in a two-step manner. And this is most beautifully done if you want to run away. Okay, run away. So like I say, the interrupting can be an unusual command or could be something like, for example, dropping a pen or dropping a cup or dropping your handphone and things like that. Or if maybe suddenly you choke yourself. Okay, you choke yourself and then you cough, and then you recover back and say, oh, okay, I need to run. All right, I'm going to show you why this happened. This works so wonderfully. Yeah, is this like what Helen correctly pointed out? Is the chain of thought that's been broken. When you're having a good conversation, the salesman is in the comfort zone, in the flow, talking non-stop, oblivious of what's happening on the outside. They are actually experiencing the pattern flow or the flow of the pattern. So the moment you send in, you interrupt it with an unusual comment or drop the cup or the phone ring suddenly, you're actually throwing him off the ground with that interruption. Okay, off the ground. That means basically, you gotta create a hole like that. He's almost on to drop, down. So when that chain of thought, like what Helen mentioned, is broken, he will feel lost. Okay, he will feel lost. And therefore, when he feel lost that time is where you will show him where is a safe landing pad to land. And he will gladfully take it up. It's just like a drowning person. You throw whatever thing to him, whether it's a float or your own body or whatever, he will just grab. He won't think twice because his chain of thought is already gone already. He will just want to survive. Same process, same thought process go through that person when you do a pattern interrupt like this. Okay, so that's why I say just now, when you interrupt already and when your redirection comes in, the time lapse shouldn't be too far away. It should be almost just right to say that, hey, I see you're drowning. Let me show you a safe landing pad here. Step right here. Okay, so the step right here means to redirect. For example, say, oh, okay, I think I need to rush off, or I need to go to the toilet, or shall we talk about this topic? Things like that. So this is a very good way. I find this a very good way. So Helen said this is a very good technique to prevent from getting into potential dispute. That's right. Because if you abruptly say, oh, I need to go now, sometimes it may look polite, impolite, or very rough, or very rude, things like that. So when you do this interrupt, my pen drop, who to blame? My pen, but they don't know the entire mechanism running behind this pattern interrupting. All right. So why I call this 声东击西? Because when you read up this 36 Stratagem classic book, there is a verse for 声东击西. Now, I've loosely translated into English like this. So let me read it out for you. In this 声东击西, why ancient people use 声东击西 is because they noted that there's something that goes like, for example, the comfort zone thing. Okay, so let me read it out to you in English. Enemy may be in a state of confusion if he's unable to cope with sudden and unexpected changes in circumstances. So when they are in that kind of situation, in a state of confusion, exploit the moment when he is still indecisive. This is called 声东击西. So exploit, how to exploit means you redirect, offer him a safe landing pad, he will gladly take it without questioning. Or maybe after a while say, hey, how come we are talking about this topic? You have successfully redirected him. So a lot of time, when you're trying to convince people and he tried to redirect, he tried to siam, talk about other things, you may want to bring him back. Time and again, bring him back as much as you needed to. Right? So this 声东击西, for those who learn prediction and things like that, ultimately, when it comes to prediction, right, we still need to advise clients what would be the action needed to be taken. So a lot of time for me right now, I will bring them back to 36 Stratagem. Okay, 36 Stratagem. And if, let's say, for example, if I get this 折地脆 for my client with regard to their question, and then when the client asks me how should they deal with it, so I probably suggest 声东击西 Okay, 声东击西 could be a suggested approach to deal with the situation. Right? So basically, for those who have already learned AOM3 from me, this will give you a different perspective how you can use AOM3 effectively. Helen is asking, is it the same as 调虎离山? No, slightly different. Idea is about the same, but intention is slightly different. Now, 调虎离山 basically means you're going to lure the tiger out of the base. Let me deviate a bit because this is my habit. I know my own pattern. If you don't mind, let me deviate a bit since Helen asked about 调虎离山. The intention of 调虎离山 is to lure the tiger out of the base. Now, the intention of doing that is either one of these is the moment you bring that tiger out of the base, your intention is to disempower the tiger because the source of power for the tiger is the base. So you lure him out means he lost the source of power. So you want to disempower him when he's away from the base. That is one of the intention. The other intention is the tiger is a source of power for the base. So if you lure the tiger out, then you may want to go in and disempower the base. It's different. Okay, like for example, 调虎离山 for example, many years back, the military coup in Thailand, when, if you can recall, if not, you can Google the story. When did the military take over the country? Was the PM at the time, Taksin, was lured away to attend certain convention in US, I think. 调虎离山. Okay, when the tiger is away, the military take over the country. That means go and disempower the base. That means the Thailand and the country. This is called 调虎离山. Okay, is that okay, Helen? We talk more about all these stratagem in AOM3. Okay, let's move on. Now, talk about this. Scenario 2, John and his wife revisited. Remember just now we talked about John and his wife always, when you put these two warm body together, they will always end up in heated argument. Now, when John starts to bring out old stuff, if let's say the wife wanted to salvage the relationship and knows about this pattern interrupt, right? So when John starts to bring out old stuff, his wife, the wife actually can do a pattern interrupt. For example, like dropping something, for example, a spoon, or say, hey, the neighbors can't give birth yesterday, something like that, and then do a redirect. Okay, redirect. That is one way for John and his wife. If let's say both of them are your friend and they are in this kind of situation and you want to help them, you may want to either teach the wife or teach John, depending on who want to salvage the relationship more. Okay. Now next, scenario 3, another scenario. So two of Peter's friends will engage in a heated argument. So let's say this is Peter's friend A, friend B. They are in heated argument, and Peter is standing sideways. Okay, standing sideways. Now, if you were Peter, how can you persuade them to cool down using pattern interrupt? Type in the chat box. Anything that can come to your mind. If you were Peter, how would you persuade them to cool down using pattern interrupt? Okay, good point. Good point, Helen. Okay, use the phone, call one of the friend's phone. Very good point. Very good point. Pattern interrupt. Very good point. Sing a song. Yes. Very good, Stacy. Okay. Helen, clap your hand loudly and announce trying to kill flying insect. Okay, very good. Very good. Yes. Unusual. Unusual. It must be unusual. It cannot be the usual thing that they is already embedded into their subconscious already. Then their subconscious will know to deal with those usual things. But it must be unusual that can create one hole below them. Then they will want to find a safe landing pad. Very good point. Okay, very good point. Any other thing? And then once you interrupt already, you must quickly move in to do the redirection. Don't let it cool down for too long. Otherwise, they will get back to their own landing pad and then they will start arguing again. All right, they will just resume part 2 of the argument. So don't do that. All right, for example, the redirection could be say, oh, okay, let's go out for dinner now. Let's get changed and go out for dinner. Something like this. Mary say, ask one of them to help you do something urgently. Can do also. Can do. For example, you just move in and then abruptly ask them, hey, anyone saw my car key? Something like that. Something like that. Must be unusual. Okay. Very good point. Thank you for your participation. Okay, good point. Suggestions. So Yeah, for example, here, Peter came up to them, tap them on the shoulders, tap them on the shoulders is one way also, and ask them where they could find his car keys. But of course, if they are fighting, don't move into their, don't get caught in their crossfire. Okay, so once you're able to do that interrupt, naturally the tension will lose momentum and then both will cool down a little bit and then you give them a safe landing pad. All right. So when there's a norm, there's always an exception. So that's why I mentioned already, this pattern works well for me so far, but I only put it as 99% because there's always a 1% that I fail. All right, there's 1% I fail. So there's always, when there's a norm, there's always an exception. But I'm just offering you this as an additional technique. But what I want you to bring back from this technique is recognize that everyone has a pattern, including ourselves, me and you. We have our own pattern. And we always want to use back the same old, friendly, comfortable patterns to do the things that we always do. And then you find that if you using the same old pattern and you keep getting the same result and that result is not what you want, then it's a telltale sign to say that the pattern that you're using is not useful to you. So in order to have a different result, you have to change a pattern. So just look out for any of the variable and then change variable by variable until you get the pattern that you want, or get the result that you want. All right? Is that okay? Any questions so far regarding pattern interrupt? Anyone not sure what it means so far after so many slides? Or most of you can understand what it means here? It's always a two-step pattern interrupt so that it won't look so impolite on your part and yet you achieve what you want to achieve. For example, run away, or for example, you want to change the topic to your advantage. Any questions so far? Right? If not, shall we take a short break here